Hey, this is Dr. Linda Davis, and today I want to run through the Appalachian Trail PowerPoint that I am using for Test 2. So you will start off with the background image that you see here. Followed by the title bar that's going to come up. Now the title bar up here at the top is made up of two different items. You've got the AT patch and you've got the image actually that says hiking the AT. Obviously AT stands for Appalachian Trail. Now remember, the patch is the first item that shows up on the background, and that should be set to on click for the start, because since it's the first item on the first slide. Hiking the AT is actually an image, so make sure you don't type that you actually go find the image that is hiking the AT, and that should be after previous. Everything else on slide 1 should be also after previous for its start. Not all those who wander or lost should be after previous, as well as presented by your name at the bottom. We move into slide 2. Notice the title bar is here, but it does not animate. So it only animates on slide 1. It does not animate on any other slide in the slideshow. Outline should animate though, and whatever animation I tell you to put it to, and then the start will be after previous for all subtitles. The image here is all images are wiped from top, and they should be after previous as well. Followed by, because it's the outline slide, you need bullets. The bullets should come in 1 bullet per mouse click, and then they should dim when you click to make the next bullet come up. So the main color is kind of a golden yellow, same as the subtitles, and the dim color, you should set it to a dark orange. And as long as you're in the neighborhood of the right color, that's going to be fine with me. Now, as I click through the rest of the bullets on this slide, you can see that, and then I'll click to go to slide 3. On slide 3, what is the AT? That is just another similar format to what we just left on slide 2. So slide 3 is the same kind of format. What is the AT? That's your subtitle. Should be after previous, so they start. The image is white from top after previous, followed by the bullets, which should again come in 1 bullet per mouse click and should also dim. And then we'll go to slide 4. Slide 4 is your map slide. Where is the AT is your subtitle, which is after previous for the start. You have your first map come up, and then you have your second map come up. Both of those should come in for the start, as far as that should be after previous for their starts, white from top on each one of those. Now, this is more of a zoomed in image for the first map, showcasing Springer Mountain. And the second map shows all the states that the Appalachian Trail runs through from Georgia all the way to Maine. And then we have the first bullet comes up, and it's a single bullet. So it's a single text box with a bullet. It begins in Georgia, Springer Mountain. That's followed by the arrow that starts at Springer and points to the northern part of Georgia, which is where Springer Mountain is. Now we'll click again. When we click again, a couple things happen. We have a new bullet that says ends in Maine, Baxter State Park, and then the next arrow picks up where the other arrow left off and shows you a path directly up through Maine. And the first arrow stays put. It does not hide. So they both stay on the screen to showcase the path. Notice there's no stacking, so there's no dimming on those. The next slide, hike your own hike. A similar format to slide 2 and 3, where we have our subtitle, which is set to after previous for its start. We have an image that's wiped from top after previous, and we have our bullet points that come up, 1 bullet per mouse click, and yes, they should dim again. The next slide, this is the challenge slide, the one where you have to take the image into GIMP and you have to highlight certain sections of the image. So the way this one rolls is we have a single text box called, we just make it a bullet point, it's called backpack. It does not dim. And the image comes up right after that that is the image that you have taken, that I've given you, and you go into GIMP with this image and you highlight the backpack that's sitting on the bench or hanging from the bench, and you highlight that certain section. So remember, you've got to darken, the image in GIMP, and then you've got to cut out from the regular image that backpack, and then you've got to copy and paste that layer onto the darkened image so that it shows up brighter there, okay, for the backpack part, because you're highlighting the backpack. That's what you're trying to do there. You'll follow that with the arrow that points from the words backpack to the actual backpack. Then you'll do that similar process again, and that arrow will disappear. Hiking boots or trail runners is the single text box that comes up. And then your next image is the one you've created in GIMP where you highlight the actual hiking boots. Okay, and then you bring a new arrow in and you connect that new arrow from the words to the actual hiking boots picture. Notice the previous arrow is gone because you set that one to hide on next mouse click. So when the new bullet came up, that previous arrow to the backpack disappeared and the new arrow could come in. Okay, so it's bullet, image, and then arrow. Same order for both of those bullet sections. Okay, so that's your challenge slide for this one. Now the third bullet doesn't have any arrows with it, doesn't have anything going on with GIMP, it's just the hammock picture along with the bullet. This slide is very similar to your slide 2 and slide 3, where you have your subtitle after previous, you have your image that's white from top after previous, and you have your bullets that are last. And they should dim, and each bullet should be on its own mouse click. Now this is your graph slide. If you've had CIS240, we've covered this in that class as well, but this is the way this one rolls. Obviously we have our subtitle set to after previous, and we have our graph. And I call this phase 1, where you have your subtitle and your graph comes in. Now your graph comes in, the animation effect we use on the graph is spiral in. It's like one of the last selections when you have the big list of all the possible animation effects. So it is spiral in. And it's set to after previous as well. So that completes phase 1. Phase 2 is a line will appear. It's called a trend line. And that's wipe from left. And it will be on click, followed by a linear trend line. Is this the words, little text box you put there, and you type in linear trend line. That's after previous for the words. Okay, and that completes phase 2. We get into phase 3, and I will click, and that click will launch the oval, because the oval's on click, and it's wipe from whatever direction, it doesn't matter, it's going in a circle anyway. So that's on click, and then the next is an arrow going from bottom to top where it strikes the trend line. That's wipe from bottom after previous, followed by the next arrow that wipes across from right, so it's wipe from right after previous. And the last little bit of this is just where I click again, and that reveals the answer. So this little text box is on click, and it says, if I tell you to forecast for July, because it is a forecast, based on historical numbers here, we can project what July might look like. So in July, over 110,000 hikers are expected. And that's just because when we did the forecast, we went up, we struck the trend line, and then right where we think July should be, we take the arrow and launch it across to where it hits the y-axis. And that's approximately 110,000 hikers. Okay, so that's how we use linear trend lines to forecast. And like I said, again, that last text box is on click, because if you were actually presenting it, you would say it as the moment that you actually click to make that appear on the screen. Now, let me go into the next slide, is the video slide. Going to do it a little bit different. I'm just going to have to comp you those points, because you can put everything else on here. You can say the sights and sounds of the AT, leave that subtitle on there, but don't put the video in because Moodle will not accept such a large file when it has a video in it. So just don't put the video in, and I will give you those points anyway. Moving through to the next slide is our first closing slide. And a closing slide, everything's after previous. So if it animates, so obviously that's the subtitle. It should animate after previous, the image white from top after previous, and followed by your name again, which is after previous. Now, that's slide 10. Slide 11, you may not have noticed, but I actually went to slide 11. It's an exact duplicate of slide 10, except there's one thing different. They have all animation removed for slide 11, which is this one here. And that's just that slide that we always put in so that when you're presenting, if you accidentally click the mouse one more time from slide 10, you don't end up with a big blank screen up in front of your audience. So it just gives them, something to look at. You clicked one extra time and you shouldn't have, but the audience doesn't know that. So it just kind of, builds some insurance in there when you're nervous and presenting and that. So that's why we always like for you to build that extra slide in there with just all animation removed. So that completes this particular slideshow. Good luck on test 2. And just play this video as many times as you need to so that you can get everything just right on your test before you submit it to Moodle. Thank you for your time.